Um, okay, two questions on altruism. Was altruism necessary for mankind's evolution?
No. So is there some kind of perspective that the group is important, our tribe is important? So yes, but that's not the same as saying it counts, the individual doesn't count at all. And altruism is a doctrine, so it's not sort of just a default way of, in a kind of pre-civilized existence of functioning. Altruism is now, it's a doctrine saying that others have primacy morally. Everyone as an individual is a slave or servant to the group, and that's not necessary. And again, Greece as of thinking of sort of a pre-civilized to becoming civilized. It's not the period dominated by altruism. So this is it's a view that's formulated, and you can understand why it would be formulated, and also what might make it plausible to people when existence seems much more communal. But there's no necessity involved.
Yeah, and it's also it's also convenient for the Rand talks about Attila and the witch doctor. It's very convenient for Attila and the witch doctor to use altruism to guilt people, to control them, and to make them sacrifice for the tribe, which really means to sacrifice for these leaders. And in a world in which there isn't an understanding of reason and science, and where things are hard to figure out, you can understand why the concept of God or gods comes about, and why you would need a witch doctor to communicate with them. So there's a certain way in which the cognitive development of mankind probably requires some of these things, probably not necessary, but is one path that obviously they evolved through. And that altruism was used, to control people by the religious authorities and the political authorities. Can you give concrete examples of altruism's impact on one's psychology and how that manifests itself in everyday life? I mean, we did that with businessmen, but some people are probably joining late. So, but maybe something not from businessmen.
I think people's whole view of sex is colored by altruism, and it's not so much that the act is for the sake of other people, but precisely because sex is an egoistic act, that there's something low wrong with it. But this is part of the painting of it. Well, if you have to do it, it's animalistic. It doesn't mean it's purely physical. So this is part of, in Reardon, that he has a mind-body split. This is part of how he thinks about sex. And this is inculcated by altruism, because sex is inherently egoistic. It's an expression, and Ayn Rand stresses this, it's an experience of yourself as an end in yourself, with a partner, but it's for both an experience like that. And altruism says that there's something wrong, low, dirty about this. And this colors all in very different kinds of ways. It doesn't mean everyone's going to be a monk or whatever, but it colors the way they think about sex.
But it also, so it also leads people to be promiscuous, because it doesn't have the full, it isn't that important. It's purely a material pleasure. Pleasure is not that important, and it's selfish. It's low, but I need the pleasure, so I might as well have as much of it as I can get from whatever source I can get, and it's not that big of a deal. And of course, that then it reinforces it, because then the sex is really, to some extent, is just materialistic, and the pleasure is kind of minimal, and it lowers your self-esteem. It lowers your own view of yourself, and that just encourages more. So it works both to turn people into, there are now these phenomenals of, people celebrating their lack of sex or don't have, so at least celibacy on the one hand and promiscuity on the other hand. It leads to both. And to general low self-esteem, even people who are married and have sex with a partner, it doesn't elevate it to a level of importance enough in their lives because of that.
And this, again, I think any educated person, but this means that really the educational system should do this for sure by the end of undergraduate. People should have some familiarity with Greece. This is because it's, again, the view of sex and the body is very different. And it's helpful to get outside of your own culture and to see, not just for altruism, but everything, but altruism colors so much that it doesn't have to be like this. And then you can think, well, which is actually better or not?
Yeah.
I ask you to capsulize your philosophy. What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it Objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute. That man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it. And that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith.
On faith.
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason, a morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
All right. All right.
Now, may I define what my morality is?
All right.
Because this is merely an introduction. My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
May I interrupt now?
You may.
Because you put this philosophy to work in your novel Atlas Shrugged.
That's right.
You demonstrate it in human terms in your novel Atlas Shrugged. And let me start by quoting from a review of this novel Atlas Shrugged that appeared in Newsweek. It said that you are out to destroy almost every edifice in the contemporary American way of life, our Judeo-Christian religion, our modified government-regulated capitalism, our rule by the majority will. Other reviews have said that you scorn churches and the concept of God. Are these accurate criticisms?
Yes, I agree with the facts, but not the estimate of this criticism. Namely, if I am challenging the base of all these institutions, I'm challenging the moral code of altruism, the precept that man's moral duty is to live for others, that man must sacrifice himself to others, which is the present-day morality.
What do you mean by sacrifice himself for others? We're getting to the point.
One moment. Since I'm challenging the base, I necessarily would challenge the institutions, you name, which are a result of that morality.
All right.
And now what is self-sacrifice?
Yes, what is self-sacrifice? You say that you do not like the altruism by which we live. You like a certain kind of Ayn Randist selfishness.
I would say that I don't like is too weak a word. I consider it evil. And self-sacrifice is the precept that man needs to serve others in order to justify his existence, that his moral duty is to serve others. That is what most people believe today.
Well, yes, we're taught to feel concerned for our fellow man, to feel responsible for his welfare, to feel that we are, as religious people might put it, children under God and responsible one for the other. Now, why do you rebel? What's wrong with this philosophy?
But that is what, in fact, makes man a sacrificial animal. That man must work for others, concern himself with others, or be responsible for them. That is the role of a sacrificial object. I say that man is entitled to his own happiness and that he must achieve it himself, but that he cannot demand that others give up their lives to make him happy. And nor should he wish to sacrifice himself for the happiness of others. I hold that man should have self-esteem.
Using the super chat, and I noticed yesterday when I appealed for support for the show, many of you stepped forward and actually supported the show for the first time. So I'll do it again. Maybe we'll get some more today. If you like what you're hearing, if you appreciate what I'm doing, then I appreciate your support. Those of you who don't yet support the show, please take this opportunity. Go to yaronbrookshow.com/support or go to subscribestar.com, Yaron Brook Show, and make a kind of a monthly contribution to keep this going. I'm not sure when the next